Okay, welcome to Mod 1 Lesson 10 problem set. Now, just like in previous problem sets, I expect you to try to solve it yourself and then watch the video. If you absolutely don't understand how to do it, just watch the video for the first one, then try the second one. But you're expected to watch the video and check your answers as you go through the problem set. All right? All right, let's get started. Our first one, we're going to be doing these. Says subtract writing difference in standard form. Use place values. So yesterday we did adding. Today we're doing subtracting. Now if you notice we're taking 5/10 minus 2/10, which will give us, okay, we're going to use standard algorithm on these in order to solve them. And the key to the standard algorithm is lining up your decimals like so. And that will line up your place values. Now we have a 7/10 there and a 0. Now when we're subtracting, we're basically ignoring the decimal except for putting the decimal where it belongs, straight below. Now I can't take 7/10 from 4/10, so I have to regroup the ones, which becomes 10/10. And 10/10 plus 4/10 gives me 14/10. And 14/10 minus 7 gives me 7/10. Our next one, we have 91 and 49 hundredths. And we're going to subtract 7/10. Remember, you notice that how I lined up my decimals and the place values fell into order. Now the top one's in hundredths, the bottom's in tenths, so I'm going to make them both in hundredths. Now I can subtract. 0 from 9 gives me 9. I cannot take 7 from 4, so we got to regroup that one and bring in 10 over 10 tenths plus 4/10 gives me 14/10. 14 minus 7 gives us 7. Our decimal is right down from the top, and we have 0 minus 0 is 0 and 9. So we end up with 90 and 79 hundredths. Our next one, 191 and 49 hundredths, and we're subtracting 10 and 72 hundredths. So they're hundredths and hundredths, so we don't have to add any zeros. 9 minus 2 is 7. We cannot take 7 from 4, so we're going to have to regroup the ones, and that brings 10/10 over. 10/10 plus 4 gives me 14. So 14 minus 7 gives us 7/10. Now 0 minus 0 is 0, and 9 minus 1 is 8, and 1 minus 0 is 1. So 180 and 77 hundredths. Our next example goes 7 and 148 thousandths. We're going to subtract 7 thousandths. Now the top one's in thousandths, the bottom one hundredths, so we're going to make them both thousandths. Now 8 minus 0 is 8. We cannot take 7 from 4, so we're going to regroup the tenths, and 10/10 becomes 1/10 becomes 10 hundredths. 10 hundredths plus 4 hundredths gives us 14 hundredths. 14 minus 7 gives us 7. And 0 minus 0 is 0. We make sure our decimal place in the correct order. 7 minus 0 is 7. So we have 7 and 78 thousandths. E, we have 60 and 91 hundredths, and we're going to subtract 2 and 856 thousandths. So now we have hundredths on top, thousandths on bottom, so we're going to make them both thousandths. We can't take 6 from 0, so we're going to regroup that hundredths, and that's going to become 10 thousandths. 10 thousandths minus 6 gives us 4 thousandths. 0 minus 5, we cannot do that, so we're going to regroup again, and 10/10 becomes 1/10 becomes 10 hundredths. 10 minus 5 hundredths is 5 hundredths. 8 minus 8 tenths is 0. We cannot take 2 from 0, so we're going to regroup the tens, and it becomes 10 ones. 10 ones minus 2 is 8 ones and 5. So we have 58 and 54 thousandths. Our last example on this page, we have 361 and 31 hundredths, and we're subtracting 2 and 841. Now, as you can see, we have to put a 0 in the thousandths place to make them the same. I can't take 1 from 0, so we're going to regroup the hundredths, and it becomes 10 thousandths. 10 minus 1 is 9. We cannot take 4 from 0, so regroup the tenths. We end up with 10 hundredths minus 4 hundredths is 6 hundredths. 7 minus 8, we cannot do that. So we're going to have to regroup the ones place. That gives us 12 tenths. 12 tenths minus 8 tenths gives us 4 tenths. Our decimal place in the correct place. We cannot take 2 from 0, so we're going to regroup our tens. That gives us 10 ones. 10 minus 2 is 8. And then we have 5 and 3 for 358 and 468 thousandths. All right, for 3. Now they're giving us some different forms, and we need to convert them. Well, I know 10 tenths, 10 tens would equal 100. And I know decimal place is at the end of a whole number. The next one says 110, 1/10. Well, I have 110, 1/10. Well, that'd be 10 and 1/10. Now we're going to make them both tenths. Now we have to regroup because we can't take 1 from 0. So we're going to take that 100ths and it's going to make it 10 tenths. We're going to take one of those tens and we're going to make 10 ones. We're going to take one of those ones and we're going to make 10 tenths. 10 minus 1 is 9, a decimal point. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. So we end up 89 and 9 tenths. Next one we have 3, and I'm going to put a decimal in there because our next one says 22 tenths. Well, I know there's 2 tenths, so 22 tenths would be 2 and 2 tenths. We're going to make them both tenths, and we have to regroup because we can't take 2 from 0. So the 3 becomes a 2. We're taking our 1 whole and we're making 10 tenths out of it. 10 minus 2 is 8, and 2 minus 2 is 0, and we have 8 tenths. On C, we have 37 tenths. Well, once again, if I put my decimal place here, there's my 7 tenths. That means the 3 has to be a 1. And we have 1 2/10, 1 and 2 tenths. Subtracting that, we end up with 7 minus 2 is 5, and 3 minus 1 is 2. Coming on D, we got 8 ones, 9 hundredths. Well, there's 8 ones, and I know the first place is tenths, and then 9 hundredths, so I have to write it in there. Minus 3 and 4 tenths. Now, once again, we're going to make them equal as far as length. 9 minus 0 is 9. I cannot take 4 from 0, so I have to regroup. That becomes 7 ones, and that 1 becomes 10 tenths. 10 minus 4 is 6, and 7 minus 3 is 4. Moving on to E. The first one's already in standard form for us, so we're going to set it up. It says 3 hundredths. Well, I know that's a tenths, and this is a hundredth, so it'd be 3 hundredths. When I subtract, I'm going to put a 0 here to make them both thousandths, and 2 minus 0 is 2. I cannot take 3 from 2, so we're going to regroup, and 1/10 is going to become 10 hundredths, and 10 hundredths plus 2 hundredths gives me 12. So 12 minus 3 will give me 9. 5 minus 0 is 5, and 5 wholes. Now our answer is 5 and 592 thousandths. Our last one up here says 2 ones, 4 tenths. And we have the other one that's already in standard form. Now we're going to make them both into hundredths. We can't take 9 from 0, so we're going to regroup one of the tenths, and it's going to become 10 hundredths. So 10 hundredths minus 9 hundredths is 1 hundredths. We cannot take 5 from 3, so we're going to regroup the 1 here, and that 1 will become 10 tenths, plus the 3 will be 13 tenths. 13 tenths minus 5 will be 8 tenths. And 1 minus 0 is 1, for 1 and 81 hundredths. All right, let's see if we can apply this to a word problem now. It says Miss Fan wrote 5/10 minus 3/100 on the board. Michael said the answer is 2/10 because 5 minus 3 is 2. Is he correct? Well, if we had 5/10, we write it in standard form. And it says minus 3/100. Well, we already know that's the tenths. The hundredths would be here. So we can see this was actually 50/100 minus 3/100. So what Michael did is he treated both of these as ones, and 5 ones minus 3 ones equals 2 ones. So he would not be correct. Now, we're going to go ahead and subtract this. 3 minus 0 I cannot do, so I'm going to regroup the tenths. And 1/10 becomes 10/100. 10 minus 3 gives us 7, and 4, and 0, so 47/100. On 5, it says a pen costs $2.09. It costs 45 cents less than a marker. Ken paid for 1 pen and 1 marker with a $5 bill. Use a tape diagram and calculation to determine your change. Okay, so here's a tape diagram. And he's saying that he paid for 1 pen and 1 marker. Then he had change. We want to know what the change is. And we know that he paid everything with a $5 bill. Now it says a pen costs $2.09. So I know this pen is $2.09. Now it says a marker is 45 cents less. Excuse me, no. It costs 45 cents less than a marker. So no, a marker here would actually be $2.09 plus 45 cents. So if I wanted to find out how much that marker was, I would take $2.09 and I'm going to add 45 cents to it. So 5 plus 9 is 14. We carry our 1, which is 5. So it ends up being $2.54. Now if I add both of these together, that's going to tell me what I spent. So now we have 2 and 9/100 and 2 and 54/100. When we add these together, 9 and 4 is 13, carry our 1, 1 and 5 is 6, and 2 and 2 is 4. So we know we spent $4.63. Now we know the change can be found now by taking $5 and we're going to subtract $4.63 from it. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the decimal in and 2 zeros, and we have to regroup from the 5, so this 1 whole becomes 4 and becomes 10/10. We're going to take one of those tenths and it's going to become 10/100. So 10/100 minus 3 is 7, 9/100 minus 6 is 3/10, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So his change he would get back would have been 37 cents. All right, so as you can see, the key, just like for adding, is to use the decimal point to line up your place values. Then have both values the same length. And then do your standards adding or subtracting and regrouping. All right, if you feel real comfortable with this, go ahead and go to the exit ticket.